Hello and welcome to CATSweek. I'm Annalise Poorman. On March 3rd at the Monroe County Board of Health meeting, Indiana University Vice Provost of Communications, Kirk White, informed the board that IU students will no longer be required to wear masks. He said they will still be advised to wear masks if they would like to protect themselves from the virus. Carol Talukian asked whether or not the students in the medical school will be required to wear masks.
Well, if you're in a clinical setting, we're quite happy with you requiring masks. Where there is, patient contact, that sort of thing, it needs that level of protection. That's okay. So in clinical settings, at our quarantine and isolation facility, that staffs that will continue to mask. And of course, there's still a TSA requirement for mass transit that, as last I checked, is in effect until the 18th. And so that means that campus buses will continue to have a mask requirement.
White said they will be watching out for an increase in COVID-19 cases when students return from spring break. Director of the Monroe County Health Department, Penny Caudill, shared that the gravity testing site will be phased out by April 30th as the state prepares for a more endemic phase response. Caudill informed the board that the state will have more mobile testing units available in the future.
The state purchased 10 of these mobile units, so they will now be available to us for a multitude of things. So it won't just be COVID focused. If we have a hepatitis outbreak, we're dealing with, in 2019, I think hepatitis A, and so we could request those mobile units to come down and help us respond to those kinds of things. Or if we want to have a back to school clinic and we want them to come down and give us some extra help, we could request them for that.
Caudill also updated the board on the Monroe County's current COVID-19 status. She said that the transmission level has decreased significantly.
Our positivity, our cases by day, you can see the big drop. And right now, today our rolling average was at 16 average a day. So yesterday it was right around 20. So you can see that it's continuing to drop. So we're pleased with those numbers.
The next Board of Health meeting will be held on March 31st. At the Election Board meeting on March 3rd, County Clerk Nicole Brown updated the board on 2022 satellite voting.
I was not here last week, but I hear that amazing things have been going on at the Napa building, for which, of course, we are incredibly grateful. Last evening, after I left the office, I received the report from CASA for the old Napa building, which I have forwarded to you, the commissioners, Mr. Crone and Mr. Evans. So I wanted to make sure that if you haven't already accessed it, that you do, with the understanding that I don't want to discuss any of those things on this public meeting. But I am hopeful that those recommendations are implemented. And I replied, I believe I put in there that I'd also like to see, to the extent possible, those recommendations be implemented over at the Johnson Hardware building as well. Thank you.
Election Supervisor Karen Wheeler explained the upcoming election polling sites for the public.
So we will have April 5th, starting April 5th will be early voting, and it'll be that week till the 8th from 8 o'clock to 6 o'clock. And then April 11th through the 14th, we have Friday the 15th off, which we know as Good Friday. Those days are from 8 to 6. April 18th to April 22nd, 8 o'clock to 6 o'clock. April 23rd, we have a Saturday from 9 o'clock to 4 o'clock. April 25th through April 29th, 8 to 6. April 30th, another Saturday, 9 to 4. May 2nd, we have just the morning. It's the day before election from 8 till 12. And I have them on here as election operations. That's where they will be located. And then on May 3rd, will be the polling sites that everyone can go vote there at their polling site.
The election board approved the proposed polling times. And we'll have more CATSweek after this message.
For hurting families in Monroe County.
A contribution to children who are vulnerable and in need of an advocate.
A staff that goes above and beyond to support and advocate for children in need of services.
The web of remarkable people who are dealing with difficult situations.
So many young people that are in need of help and trying to find a stable family, a stable place to live. Without the CASAs to make that happen, many of them would be unable to find a good home.
I love being that voice for the child who can't speak for themselves in court.
It takes me out of my comfort zone, and it also helps others.
CASA means supporting our community.
Being a CASA is making sure that your village is healthy and whole, and that the children in your village will someday be able to help the village as well.
A child who doesn't have a voice, maybe in their family situation or a school situation, now has a voice that can advocate for them.
I really enjoy working with children that are going through difficult times and letting them know that I care about their future.
We are privileged with our charge of representing the best interest of children. And so therefore we can advocate for exactly what they need without restriction, focusing on their best interest.
I want to repair the world one child at a time.
Welcome back to CATSweek. At the Bloomington City Council meeting on March 3rd, Director of Innovation Devta Kidd introduced a report on the LEAF program, a 2-year pilot program aimed at improving Bloomington's leaf collection.
Thank you to the mayor and the council for giving us the opportunity to present the recommendations resulting from this 2-year innovation effort. We're proud not only of the results from the pilot, but also the way that we engaged nearly every city department, thousands of individual residents in transforming a city service to make it better for our residents, our climate, and our budget. That's in addition to dozens of community partnerships that participated as well.
Special Projects Manager Michael Large gave the council an overview of the program. He told the council that they provided education and support to 22 households. Their goal was to increase citizens' ability to compost their leaves, use them as mulch, and decrease their dependence on the street vacuum.
The expanded pilot program in the end had 493 households that came on board with us, representative of all the council districts. In fact, many of our own, including some of you here tonight, were part of this great program. So with that, a multitude of educational components were part of this program. Taking what we had learned from that small talk with 22 households, we were able to develop facts and question brochures and pamphlets, online guides, hands-on demonstrations that were on YouTube and videos that they could access at any given time at their convenience. The volunteer yard consultants that would come out and educate individuals about what composting on site really was and how it benefited not only the environment, but the soil quality, as well as their overall involvement in their neighborhoods and areas.
Kidd explained the results of the program and shared that the pilot was successful. It was recommended that the program be applied on a larger scale.
This first metric was really a reality check. Was the challenge too ambitious, or is it possible to use mulching and composting as our default leaf management strategy across a variety of yard sizes and configurations? The answer is yes. 91% of the respondents said they were able to mulch, compost, give away, or set out bags of leaves for yard waste collection and not use the vacuum collection at all. Earlier, Michael mentioned that 59% of residents in the 22 household pilot were successful in not using the vacuum service. And I gotta tell you, back then, we were thrilled that more than 50% of the participants could do without the vacuum service. And we didn't know if that percent would hold up when we expanded the pilot beyond those 2 neighborhoods. So seeing a 32% increase when the number of respondents was more than 10 times what that pilot was, gave us real confidence in expanding the strategy even more. Not only were participants able to complete the challenge, we have some evidence that the change will stick.
During public comment, Bloomington resident Connor Bickle asked the council to revisit the city's noise ordinance due to loud construction waking him up in the morning.
On top of that, 14th Street is currently home to the largest off-campus housing project in the history of Bloomington. This takes place 10 feet from my bedroom. Upon signing my lease, I was excited to move into my own home for the first time in a community that I love. Now, I regret almost every decision I've made for the sole basis of I can't sleep in my own house. My parents have insisted I sleep at others' houses before interviews, large exams, and when I need actual sleep. This shouldn't be the case in what I have to do to succeed in school. The construction site begins major drilling every day from 6 to 8 a.m. with the sound piercing any form of damper. I wear earplugs, headphones that cancel noise, and have white noise, yet it still pierces through. The constant large-scale noise that takes place from 6 to 8 a.m. has caused me major mood changes, lack of focus and happiness, and has directly caused my academics to drastically decline. I cannot receive quality sleep due to the constant barrage of drilling, dump trucks dumping and arriving prior to the construction beginning, and overall lack of understanding for the community that is 5 feet away from its site. Bloomington has strict noise ordinances that target students and current residences, yet lack current fail-safes that protect the community and those who live near major areas of economic growth. One of Bloomington's major rental market segments is students. Construction currently is exempt from the most noise ordinances if it takes place typically between 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. I want to ask the council 2 questions. Do you wake up every day before or at 6 a.m.? And did you wake up every day prior to 8 a.m. as a 19 to 20-year-old? I've come to the council for 2 reasons. One being I've exhausted all options and I'm afraid for my academics declining even more. And 2 being that this is an ongoing issue that's constantly increasing. We can see this everywhere. 14th Street, the communities surrounding Verve apartments under construction, and those who have lived near the new Atlas apartments. The city needs to protect the community and ensure these projects do not affect the well-being and overall health of its population.
The next Bloomington City Council meeting will be held on March 23rd. On March 2nd, at the Monroe County Commissioners meeting, Facility Manager Greg Crone asked the commissioners to approve multiple construction projects to ensure the early voting site at 302 South Walnut Street is accessible. Crone asked the commissioners to approve the installation of electric door openers and ADA push buttons.
Good morning, commissioners. And for everyone that's listening, this is not deja vu. I know we've been hearing a lot about election operations at 302 South Walnut, but this is just another part of that. In order to improve accessibility for all at the location and to get us into compliance, we need to install 2 electric door openers on the front entry and exit doors, as well as 1 exterior ADA push button actuator and 1 on the interior. And this is for automated door access, who we currently use to provide support and installation for our other applications and other buildings to get those implemented for us.
Thank you so much. Comments, questions? Commissioner Giffens?
The commissioners voted to approve the project unanimously. Crone also asked the commissioners to approve the cleanup and painting of the building's exterior and the installation of an awning on the side of the building to protect voters from the elements. The commissioners voted unanimously to approve these requests. Later on, Chief Deputy Treasurer Elizabeth Sensenstein gave an annual Occupational Safety and Health Administration report. Commissioner Penny Giffens asked why there was a jump in claims in 2021. Sensenstein explained that it was relatively consistent.
Usually there is like a yearly comparison at the top, and that wasn't included for some reason on the report this year, but in 2018, there were 49 claims, 2019, there were 40, 2020, there were 36, and then in 2021, there were 44. I think that in 2020, the number went down because of COVID, but I think that 44 number is the average, but there were 4 claims in 2021 that accounted for the majority of those costs, and they were just a little bit more severe claims, if that makes sense. And so that's why those amounts were a little bit higher. I think our incidents are pretty consistent. We still want them to be less, but I think that there were just some high claims in 2021.
The next Monroe County Commissioners meeting will be held as a hybrid meeting in person and on Zoom on March 9th. And we'll have more Cats Week after this message.
I'm at risk of thinking there's just no point in trying.
I'm at risk of looking in the mirror and hating what I see.
I'm at risk of regretting what I do, just to join the crowd.
I'm at risk of being told not to tell. And you would never know it by looking at me.
But with Girls Inc. in my corner,
there for me every day, believing in me,
showing me what's possible,
I can be strong enough to respect myself and my body.
To say I can rather than I can't.
To say no with no apology.
To be a leader.
To finish school.
To own my future.
To break the cycle.
Girls Inc. believes every girl can succeed. That's why the trained professionals of Girls Inc. are there for our girls every day, supporting, mentoring, and guiding them in a safe, girls-only environment. Building bonds that last for years and change that lasts a lifetime. Girls Inc. gives girls the tools they need to boldly face challenges, to resist peer pressure, to be the first in their families to go to college, to beat the odds. With Girls Inc. in her corner, every girl can be healthy, confident, and resilient. She'll do more than dream about her potential. She'll reach it.
With you in my corner. With you in my corner,
I will not be another statistic.
I will fight for myself.
For my future.
With you in my corner, I will win.
Fuel her fire and she will change the world. Girls Inc. Inspiring all girls to be strong, smart, and bold.
Welcome back to Cats Week. At the Bloomington Board of Public Works meeting on March 1st, Assistant Director for the Arts, Holly Warren, asked for approval to close 4th Street for the Parks and Recreation International Food and Art Festival on April 10th.
I'm working on this festival in collaboration with both the Parks and Recreation Department and the Community and Family Resources Department. So the application is for a permit for a new festival. This would be the first year that this festival would take place. It's slated to happen on Sunday, April 10th from 2 to 6 p.m. And it would feature a slew of arts vendors and potentially arts performers and also food vendors in the parking lot that's at Dunn Street and 4th Street, and potentially also on 4th Street between Dunn and Grant. So we're requesting that Dunn and Grant actually be closed as part of this festival, with the closure starting at 10 a.m. on the 10th and going all the way until 8 p.m. So we have enough time to do the shutdown. We've been working very closely with restaurants in the area to make sure that they are aware that the event is happening. We've also been inviting them them to participate as vendors at the festival.
Adam Wason asked for clarification on the street closure listed on the application. It was confirmed that 4th Street would be closed between Dunn Street and Grant Street. Board member Kyla Cox-Deckard mentioned that the event would be free to the public.
We did confirm during the work session that the event is free to attend. So anyone who wants to come through the event is welcome, and there's no fee for that as well.
The motion to approve the road closure passed unanimously. At the Ellettsville Town Council meeting on February 28th, Fire Chief Mike Kornman shared an amendment to the Ellettsville Town Code to clarify paid time off payout eligibility.
This is part of the town personnel policy that allows a payout for somebody separating employment after 10 continuous years. The previous verbiage was ambiguous as to what it meant with town's retirement policy. The intent was with the town's the PERF, which was the town's retirement policy, was 10 years. And there was some ambiguity now with the definitions with PERF. So we want to take that out and make it just 10 years. That was the intent we come up with a long time ago. So it was 10 years. That's the only change we want to make. So.
Councilmember Scott Oldham asked about why there's a wide disparity between the levels of payout. Kornman responded.
I will try. So it was 17 years ago tonight, the town council approved a rewrite of the town code for the town's personnel policy. The policies came from derived from the town's policy at the time with the city and the county's policy. That was the 3 that we used, and we came together with what we thought was a good policy. So, but the thing was unusual for the supervisors at the time. They felt like the payout that the county had was endless. And we felt like that there should be some limits to that at the time, and it was a year and a half. We felt like it said just a year, whatever time you have was going to be a year and a half. So 1.5 was the factor. Now, what I can find in the documentation from 2004 and 5, thanks to the administrative assistant, is that the town had taken all the previous definitions and benefit accrual that we had the name before the PTO. We took what we had at the time in consideration of changing the PTO, in other words, vacation days, birthdays, personal business day, and at the time, holidays, floating holidays for firefighters, because back then, firefighters who were scheduled to work a holiday were not allowed to take off work. So that was the idea.
Oldham still did not agree with the current payout eligibility and said it should be equitable across the board.
No, it's what you have in the bank. If you go to, if I'm at the end of my 10 years and I've worked 8 hours a day for my entire career, but I have 400 hours banked. And if Mike is there, who works a 24-hour cycle and he has 400 banked, and we're going to pay out up to 400 hours or whatever number we pick, why is it that I can't exchange my 400 hours because I've banked them and saved them, but Mike can?
Town manager Mike Farmer stepped in to try and explain the confusion about the amount of payout employees could receive.
Sandy, all he's saying is the level of banking should be even across the board. How it gets to that point obviously is different because of the different kinds of shifts and hours we work, but the level after 10 years, everybody should be able to have that same level as they go out the door. They all ought to have the ability, it sounds like to me what Scott's saying, is to enjoy that same amount on the way out, not be guaranteed it, because some people will save or use everything differently, but the level, the max level ought to be the same, not guarantee that it's going to be that much.
Clerk Treasurer Sandra Hash further explained the difference.
It's up to the employee to save their PTO in order to even get this 1.5 year payout. They may choose not to do that. They may use up all their PTO and then they would only get the current year's payout. And it's even outlined in the policy that if you retire or leave before June 30th, then the first 6 months are, what's the term?
Prorated.
prorated. You don't get the full benefit until you work to July 1st. This is the formula that's been laid out. If you're questioning it, I think we need some time to think about your question and understand it a little better.
The town council considered having a flat cap for the number of paid time off hours staff can accrue, but agreed to revisit the issue at the next meeting. And that's all for CATSweek. Thank you for joining us. For CATS and WFHB, I'm Annalise Poorman.